G'day, I'm Will Anderson. Welcome to Gruen. We'll get to our thoroughly sanitised panel in a moment, but first, all of a sudden, it seems like every brand is saying thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. But wait, I'm suspicious. What did I do? Kellogg's?
To everyone around the world working so hard to bring breakfast to the table, thank you.
That wasn't even hard. I just took my bowl to the table. But you're welcome. Gumtree?
Thanks for being a good neighbour.
You're welcome, but I wasn't. I forgot to hoard toilet paper, so I just took theirs. Pets are getting thanks.
Thank you to all our four-legged heroes.
On behalf of my dogs, you're welcome. And Uber got so confused, they started thanking people for not riding with Uber. You're welcome, Uber. I'll go home in a cab. And then there was Heritage Bank, who didn't say thank you, they said bank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That doesn't sound like a compliment, Heritage Bank, you pack of bankers. The plane brands all said thank you because right now being on TV is the only way planes can get airtime. In fact, Subaru admitted it was all about airtime.
We originally paid to air our Subaru car commercial in this time slot, but instead, we'd like to use the next 30 seconds to thank those who keep us safe.
Thank you for your sacrifice, Subaru. I'll do my part by not buying a Subaru. But there's only one thank you I want to give to all the brands that didn't say thank you. Time to welcome our panel, Todd Sampson, Christina Aventi, Emily Taylor and Russell Howcroft. Soap operas got their name because they were paid for by soap companies, so you could watch ads like this.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, thank you. And now, in this soap opera of a year, Brand Hygiene is having the pandemic of its life. From December to February, sales of hand sanitizer have risen by 1,400%. Don't know why. In Australia, Dove has been flying with this. A soap company in India ran a similar campaign, except it named all its competitors. Dove forgot to do that, so we did it for them. Christina, does Dove really not care which soap you buy?
They absolutely do care. Otherwise, they debrand it or all-in brand it and have like a coalition of soap conglomerates showing all the brands just as you show there. But this walks like Dove, it talks like Dove. It absolutely reeks of Dove. And it's undeniable that I think they use the word like 5 or 6 times in the ad alone. Everything about it, from that signature white background to that blue font, even the way it fades in and out feels like Dove. The acoustic guitar that is almost as pure as the bar itself.
I think there are 2 messages going on. The public service message, which is wash your hands. And then, of course, there's the logo. And they already know. If they really didn't care, they wouldn't have the logo on the entire time. I mean, the amount of brands and companies that would love to have their logo front and center for an entire ad, that's what they have. And they did a couple of things with the logo that I like, that we know lodges it further in your head. There's a bit of movement in the logo. So not only is it there, but it's moving so that it gets further and further in your head.
If 2020 hadn't delivered enough shocking twists, here's another. Dove is not even a soap. According to Dove, it is a beauty bar. Before the pandemic, they even ran anti-soap attack ads.
Is your bar of soap leaving scum on your skin? If you could see the difference, you'd see that soap actually leaves an invisible layer of scum on your skin.
We don't care what soap you use, but the others will cover you in scum. Todd, can Dove just change its mind again now that soap is cool?
They can't, but they're trying. So Dove has positioned itself around beauty, not cleanliness, because they knew that you make more money from beauty than you do killing germs. And things have changed. And their response to their slight repositioning back to soap, hey, hold on for a second, is to bag soap.
I desperately want to be in the Dove marketing room when they realised that that soap was going to go absolutely nuts, and they've spent decades positioning themselves as not soap.
Yeah.
So they've gone into a room and they've gone, how are we possibly going to make this happen? They've given it a red hot go, and I don't blame them. One of their tweets was almost the equivalent of Coke saying, our soft drinks are not drinks, but they do contain water. It was absolutely like, it was great marketing.
But they would have been better. They would have been better not to say anything. Where they could have just stayed quiet and people would have believed they were a soap.
Yeah, if you ask most people, they'd be like, what's Dove? They'd be like, soap, isn't it?
So, right, it looks like a soap.
Yeah.
It's packed like a soap. Yeah. It smells like a soap. But we better tell people that we actually aren't a soap, but actually we really are. It's so unreal. I just want to be in that room, in that conversation.
But they've probably spent a lot of time telling a lot of women that they are not soap. So I think I probably would have had some efficacy thoughts as to whether or not it would work.
I agree. I mean, that thing sort of, it does feel like moisturiser in your hands.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Dove could kill a fly, let alone COVID. So trying to sort of own a little bit of that soap halo might help. The other thing about it, though, that I actually think it's the wrong strategy to sort of play into the hands of soap, because they are positioned as, you know, real beauty, as being unfakeable. They did this whole expose on photoshopping and celebrating imperfections, and there's something really disingenuous and hypocritical about all of this. It's like fake news, but for Dove, I find it really odd.
What's with the lights going off? What is that actually showing? I mean, if anything, if you think about it, what they're saying is that Dove strips your skin. It's such a weird thing that they've done for no reason, really.
Yeah, they had to do it, though. They had to do it. Dove couldn't possibly risk not attempting to reframe Dove as a soap, because the risk is the consumer during the COVID times creates new habits, i.e. new brand habits. So they had to conduct themselves in this fashion. The risk was way too high if they did.
Yeah, they'll just be in the meeting just going, look, normally people care about being ugly more than they care about death, but at the moment we're seeing a lot of them caring about death more than being ugly. Once it gets back to ugly, we'll be fine to go again. Dove isn't the only non-soap trying to clean up in 2020. There's also Vaseline. I can think of one link between hands and Vaseline that wasn't in that ad. If there's one thing all these brands have in common, it's that they think only women have hands. Dettol spent years of marketing mainly to the mums of grotty kids, even making its way into schools.
It was great to have children's entertainer Lala come down to teach hand washing to our kids, supported by Dettol.
Wash my hands.
It's like the Wiggles for germaphobes. But lately, Dettol has been casting the net wider with a remarkably sterile campaign full of vague inspiration.
Our fight is not yet over. Now is our chance to protect tomorrow.
And as many pack shots as there were unhygienic moments. Emily, how do you take advantage of a pandemic when it plays right into your grubby hands?
Well, I'm not sure that ad is exactly it, but in theory, I think you do exactly what they've done. So you put your brand on air, you broaden your audience, and, you know, you make sure you're upping production and that you've got lots of stock on shelf. One of which is they actually launched a product mid-COVID, which plays into the deepest, darkest corners of our kind of COVID paranoia, our washing machine. Yeah. So they actually launched a washing machine cleaning product from Dettol. And there I was thinking that perhaps the soap and the detergent that I was washing my clothes in was cleaning my washing machine, but no. And I have to admit, I did go out and buy some.
I normally agree with Em. I agree with Em in life, let alone in marketing, but I'm not sure I agree that this is the right way to take advantage of the situation. I actually find it really heavy-handed, the way they're talking about this. And what's interesting is the timing of this campaign. It's sort of June, just before we sort of had an understanding of how dire the Melbourne situation was. And to me, what it looks like is they're trying to preserve all these good behaviours that we've made around sort of hygiene. Even as we move into a recovery phase, we know from overseas, like incidents like bird flu, that you'll get this spike and then it'll revert to sort of less OCD levels. They're really trying to preserve those behaviours, but I don't like how they're doing.
Because if you think about it, disease has been repositioning soap for many years. So SARS got it basically out of the bathroom into the kitchen. And now COVID has got soap out of the kitchen and into our pockets. And Dettol's going to take advantage of that with hand sanitizer. And some people are predicting that hand sanitizer will become like a modern-day hanky, you know, a pocket square that everyone will have with them. And if that behavioural change happens, then Dettol will certainly take advantage of this pandemic.
So, Will, the opportunity for Dettol right now is, at the very minimum, to nail a generation of users. They should do everything they can to associate their brand to the notion of hand washing, and they'll have certainty of cash flow minimum for the next generation.
If you think about their competitive set, to Russ's point, you know, so many suddenly more brands are in this space, and it's not just about the supermarket shelf space. I mean, you've got gin brands suddenly making hand sanitizer, so I think they do really need to put their brand out there.
I would never use a gin brand hand sanitizer because it means that your hands will get really depressed at about 3 o'clock in the morning and just start crying for no reason. Last month, Dettol partnered with Cricket Australia to, quote, investigate the transmission of germs in cricket. I guess that's for when you pull the sandpaper out of your undies. But it's not, that's not the only strange stench around Dettol. If you have smell-o-vision, you might have noticed I just opened this. That smell is a molecule with the catchy name 4-chloro-3-5-dimethylphenol, or at least I think that's how you say it. I spent the afternoon sniffing Dettol. Christina, what's the value of a signature scent?
I think it's highly valuable and probably underutilised in our industry. When I think about Dettol, that smell is a key brand asset. It's a reason to believe that sort of deep clean. There's another thing that smell does. It has an uncanny ability to unlock memories, okay? And the reason for that is because in the bento box of our brain, where smell is stored is really close to where memories are stored and where feelings are stored. It's part of the limbic system, okay? And so what happens is they kind of hang out and they ferment, and when you smell something, it unlocks those memories. It gives you an incredible ability to time travel just through smell. You know, whether it's, you know, food, we know you literally salivate when you smell something. We've talked about how can we evoke that smell at the point of sale so someone picks it up just because of the smell. Recently, for a car brand, we were trying to sort of work out how do you capture the experience of a test drive and that new car smell. It was the nice leathers as opposed to those plastics. And we talked about having like this leather business card that you took away after your test drive that could evoke all that experience and the feeling of the test drive. It's a really powerful and underutilised, I think, technique in our industry.
I think it's pretty interesting as well when you imagine what they might have signed as part of that partnership deal. Like, are they actually going to get access to the air? Might you be sitting at the MCG Boxing Day test and suddenly Dettol is going to kind of get cranked out over the audience? It'd be kind of amazing. Yeah. That's some covert
super
advertising.
idea.
Russell's just so excited. He's going to start a smell advertising agency. Russell Howcross, pull my finger. It's a...
I think you've just given Cricket Australia an idea.
Yeah.
Dove may be in the middle of an identity crisis, but we thought we could help clean things up for them. No need to thank us. Before the current crisis had us terrified in our masks, there was another crisis that had us terrified in our masks. Somehow, the devastation of the Black Summer bushfires feels like a long time ago, and also just yesterday. With bushfire season approaching again, insurance company NRMA ran a campaign urging you to prepare now. Before we show it, just a warning that earlier this month, the ad was pulled for distressing scenes. Here it is.
Golden Line, respond to Bush Alive, Davis Lane, Ashburn.
Responding to Davis Lane, Ashburn, crew strength of 4, OIC Captain.
Yeah, further information for you, with potential for the fire to be a couple of kilometres wide.
This number here of this house here. Looks like the wind's changed again. There's going to be a front.
Davis Lane Control, strike teams are at least half an hour away. We're having trouble sourcing. You are currently on your own. I repeat, you are currently on your own.
Okay, guys, get all your gear on. Steve, you're on the front. You guys in the back. Get on the hoses. Come on, let's go. Stay safe, stay safe.
That ad is incredibly confronting, particularly this shot. And this moment.
Trouble sourcing. You are currently on your own. I repeat, you are currently on your own.
Christina, when does confrontation become exploitation?
I think this does cross the line as much as it probably wasn't the intention of NRMA. There is a bit of mea culpa here that I think they have to take on board. And I want to just say that I love the help platform, but they've absolutely gotten it wrong here. And there's a few reasons for that, notwithstanding the fact that they're using gratuitous disaster porn, which I have a problem with. Moreover, having worked on some domestic violence campaigns and being privy to road safety campaigns, what you've got to be really mindful of, and excuse me if I'm a bit earnest when I talk about this stuff, is triggering trauma. Kind of campaigns that are meant to do good is you check with mental health professionals, you check with victims, and you see if it does trigger that trauma. I don't know if that check has been made with this. And so for me, it is the antithesis of help, which is at the centre of their brand. If anything, it hinders. And then when you add insult to injury, it's a case of, hey, why don't you help yourself? We're not going to help you. What's the skin in the game for NRMA? A calendar entry, an education, and I'm left with this vague day and I'm not sure what to do. It's a real letdown. For me, it's all take and no give. So absolutely it crosses the line.
Yeah, I think they got the timing wrong. In a time of pandemic when people are already suffering from so much trauma from COVID and recovering from the trauma from bushfires, are on their way to do this now. So just park the execution itself. I have a problem with the timing.
When I looked at this campaign, my mind turned to TAC. So I'm sure everyone's seen the TAC work. Now, 80% of the TAC work probably would have been pulled off air if you use the same criteria. What we also know is that people involved in the creation of this campaign are amongst the very, very best. The best agency, the best client, unbelievable amount of research would have gone into it. I'd be very surprised if they also didn't check whether it was appropriate. Go back to the TAC, we know through 2 decades of case study analysis and analysis by third parties, this sort of advertising does actually directly correlate to a change of behaviour. And a direct behaviour change is absolutely required.
Russell, just to clarify that research, so that research says that this type of shock or fear-based advertising absolutely works as long as, important criteria here, as long as the call to action is very clear.
As much as some of those fear-based campaigns might have worked in the past, we do have a thing called fear fatigue. And to Todd's point earlier, our minds have been blown and monopolised by COVID, and we're absolutely got like peak cog load. It's just too much. I'm not sure people would watch all of that. I think they would exit. You've got to keep people connected, and it's just too much.
for me, you know, there's three components to any campaign normally that you see on air, one of which is the strategy, one is the idea, and one is the execution. So the strategy behind this of mobilising people so that we all have a role to play in helping prepare our homes and taking some of the effort off the fireys, I totally buy. And then the idea of First Saturday, I think could be really interesting if, to Christina's point, you know, you get behind it and NRMA takes some action. Where I think it falls down in this launch ad is this execution.
Not everyone saw the 90-second version of that ad. The NRMA also put out a 60-second cut and this even shorter version.
Hey guys, get all your gear on. Steve, you're on the front. You guys in the back. Get on the hoses. Come on, let's go. Stay safe, stay safe.
Suddenly that end frame feels less reassuring and almost like a cry for help. And this week, the NRMA added a disclaimer that the footage is a reenactment. Emily, do you risk making the impact of this ad worse by stripping away the context?
Always. And the reality is that a 15-second is a really difficult time frame to work with. But the way this campaign will work, I assume, based on the fact it is the first Saturday of the month, is that they will focus all of their media buy around that first Saturday of the month. So you will be targeted, you will be retargeted, you will be re-retargeted with this work. And together, all of the different components of it will come together. So it's probably not the intention that you would ever see that ad without having seen some other pieces of the mix.
Confronting imagery is a fixture in government bushfire campaigns, and they all have a clear call to action telling you to prepare your bushfire plan. The NRMA campaign was part of their First Saturday initiative. Here's a bit more detail.
On the first Saturday in October, get your home bushfire ready by removing branches and garden debris.
Oh, I'm going to feel much better in January knowing I cleaned my garden debris in October. I hope next Saturday is Stop Global Warming. Todd, 2 questions. 1, is this an effective strategy? And 2, can you come around and clean my gutters for me?
No on the first one, and no on the second one. So advertising fits in context. What context we're in now, whenever we're communicating, we need to put the ads within that context. So we're in a COVID context. And what we do now know from the research is that people are over getting vague reassurance. They're over getting this naive optimism. What they want now is practical things to do. So this animated version moves towards that, where it says, look, because the idea of every Saturday make our home safer, that's a good idea.
So now this campaign is awesome. This is actually about behaviour change. This is actually helping people by telling them, you know what, on a Saturday, go and do X, go and do Y, go and do Z. I'm with Todd. There was no reason to make 90 seconds at the cost that 90 seconds would have taken to make that 90 seconds, plus the media. Just grab all that money and just concentrate on what you do on that Saturday and just educate. Use the wonders of the mobile phone to help people get educated. Use all the mediums to help people get educated. And you will nail in the mind of all Australians, or in this case, New South Welshmen, that Saturday's the day that you get yourself ready.
And the reality is, in order to drive behavioural change, you need to trigger. And normally, or in a lot of cases in these types of campaigns, the ad is the trigger. And that's a very expensive way of triggering people into that behaviour. So the hope here is that people start recognising, oh, it's the first Saturday of the month, and go out and do stuff.
I think that's a really interesting point. Like, for an insurance company, this is far more effective for a couple of different reasons. One, for an insurance company, they've only got 2 times to sort of really speak to you, and that's at like your yearly renewal or when you're making a claim which is not a positive experience. And so they found a way to get into your calendar and almost be salient one time a month around something that's a positive behaviour.
Yeah, supposedly this idea came from the fire chief who said, I'm not certain whether these firefighters should be going in protecting these homes if the owners are not protecting them themselves, you know, haven't safeguarded them themselves. But I guess in our industry, the inclination is to go to the drama and to dramatize it. And I think in some ways it hurt the idea, the original idea.
I have to admit, we have had our gutters cleaned since they've started running this campaign, and it was already on a list, but it was halfway down and we moved it up.
Will, I'll be over on the weekend.
Yeah. The next series of Body Hack, nowhere near as spectacular. Todd cleans Will's gutters. In fact, we'll film all 12 first Saturdays and you can do the whole house for me. We'll make it a show. NRMA's last major advertising push was a heartwarming story about a boy and the koala he was kidnapping. That koala has a name. It's Arlo, and he's Australia's most cashed-up koala since Caramello. NRMA paid Arlo $50,000, which he spent on 12,000 gum trees, the koala equivalent of a mountain of cocaine. The NRMA is so proud of Arlo, they even let you talk directly to him via an Arlo chatbot. And I can tell you, I love talking to Arlo. This week, I've messaged Arlo more than I message my own family. Here are some actual highlights, actual chats we've had with Arlo. In this performance, the role of Arlo will be played by dual Logie winner Miranda Tapsell. G'day, Arlo. You're my favourite brand ambassador since Louis the Fly, the Paddle Pop Lion, and of course, Dove the Dove. I want to ask you some questions.
I'm a koala. Please use less words.
I've heard most koalas have chlamydia. Does NRMA insurance cover this?
Although the strain of chlamydia that koalas contract is different to humans, it's a serious problem for us.
Are koala mattresses made of real koalas?
That seems insulting to me. I'd prefer we have a polite conversation.
Fine, Arlo. Can you at least tell me a joke?
Which Australian animal loves to sing? Koala.
Comedy's tough without an audience, isn't it, Arlo? Thanks to our panel, Russell, Emily, Christina and Todd. After so much talk about Dove tonight, we thought it would only be right that before we go, we spend another 30 seconds rinsing the soap. Sorry, beauty bar. We'll see you next week. There's no way that's helpful. There is absolutely no way that you can possibly
It's not a clap
convince me
sync. I mean,
that
10
in
seconds.
any way is helpful.